So, so what is the difference between startup and the business? So a lot of people have this misconception of startup and the business. So startup is something which deals with mostly on technological side, or you're inventing something new, or you have some a different idea and you're trying to implement on that idea. Business is already there existing, like the manufacturing industries right now, what they have, or the traders. So do not confuse a startup and a business altogether. And when you can call your startup as a startup is when you're providing something, a unique solution which is not there in the market, or when you're the when you're doing something uh, a better solution for the existing model. So something unique should be there. We call something as USP, unique selling point. So that should be there in a startups. But a lot of people, because of this fantasy, they start into getting into the startup and thinking it's a business and we can make a profit and all. So it's all it's not all true. So not either all startups success. It's only one in around 10 to 12 startups only succeed. The failure rate of startups is too high. It's because of these misconceptions. Yes, and can you move to the next slide? Okay. So how to actually make a startup? Okay. So first is the process of planning. So usually what happens in college is we have some unique idea and we think, okay, this idea works. So we directly jump into making that idea and we make all the legal documents and we form a company and we call it as a startup directly. But before doing a startup, what you should have in mind. So first is a planning. Okay, before you pitch, for example, you have some unique idea in mind and you want to bring that into the market. So first you have to do a lot of research behind it. So first is a business plan. So how are you going to bring that product to the market? So what strategies are you going to use it? Okay, so what's is my audio audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so what strategies you're going to use it, and what is your exact business plan? Whatever you think is a business plan might not be true or might not be satisfactory to each and everyone. So whatever, when we think of something, a unique business plan or unique idea, so we might like it, but it is not necessary that each and everyone will like it. So first thing is you have to create a business plan. Then you have to create a name for it. So you have to choose a name, and you have to research on the supplies, so where you can get it. For example, you're making a product which has got a unique material, which only from US or from Japan you can import it. So when you're making a startup on that kind of condition, you have to think twice, should I make this or not? Okay. Next is estimation of a startup costs and all. So we directly jump in making a product. So basically, startup doesn't include only on a product development or prototype development. It includes a lot. It can include a rent. It can include operational cost. Operational cost is something we all miss out while creating a startup. We only think, okay, this is the amount I require to build my product, but I don't even think what is the operation cost for 4 months of time. How much actually money I require. Let it be for the rent. Let it be for the other expenses, or while creating a startup, a lot of times we waste materials, we use excess materials, or sometimes we damage the materials. So to keep those things in mind, and we don't do that. We directly only take consideration of the product cost, estimating the manufacturing cost. So what we do usually is prototype manufacturing and mass manufacturing both has got a difference. Prototype manufacturing is usually very expensive because you be there, you spend a lot of labor time, and you tell them. So basically, even in my profession, I'm a robotics design and development engineer. So I build robots, structures of robots and all. So when I'm making the first one, I be with the team, I be with that fabricators day and night, almost from morning, if I go there till evening, night 10 and all, we'll be there, we'll be working on it. We'll be wasting a lot of materials also, because it is not always how we design the same thing will be portraying in the actual. So we'll be wasting some materials. All these things we have to keep in mind. And the next thing is research of the competition. What we do is we usually take only few people as a competitors. Okay, there'll be a huge number of competitors. We take only few of them, and we think, okay, we can do something better than them. But actually, once you get into the startup, or once you get into the making of the product, you find hundreds of them, and then you start to realize, okay, what is unique I'm doing apart from them. and setting up a realistic goal. So why I'm using a word called realistic goal over here is, yes, whenever you think of some new idea, we think, okay, oh wow, I can do this in probably in a month of time I can achieve 100 sales. For the next month I can achieve 200 sales. For the next third month I can achieve 300 sales. So we make this, and on that sales we calculate the profit. For 100 sales I get this much of profit, for 200 sales I get this much of profit, or within 1 year I can get my return of investment. So we make all these assumptions of how our goals are, but we don't set a realistic goal. So even when I started my startup, I used to think, okay, oh, per month we can sell 20 numbers of the kit. And next month we can sell at least 50 numbers of the kit. So once I sell in a 1 month 20 numbers, in the next month it will be obviously double than that. So 50 numbers. So by this, within 1 year I can get my investments back. So this is what even I was thinking when I did a startup. But the ground reality is totally wrong, totally different. It's not wrong, totally different. You have to set a realistic goal. So for this, setting a realistic goal, you have to search a lot, you have to research a lot, you have to speak to a lot of people, your competitors itself, how they started it. Okay. Then researching a pricing for the item is very important. So whatever your competitors are making, you always think, okay, I have to reduce the price, or you are implementing something, so you have to increase the price. It's a kind of an exceptional case that only few companies can raise the price and create a demand, especially like Apple. So Apple products are too high. They have a very good quality, and it's all the pricing also too high, and there's a huge demand for that. People buy on that. And even when you compare to the cars, Tesla, in automotive industry, Tesla cars are the most expensive. On an economical, when you say economical car itself, they start from 50 lakhs on an Indian price. It's a minimum. And there is a very good demand. It's a hype. But it is not true for all the startups. So this is what we feel. So if I keep, I don't, we think that, we can keep the price a bit high. Still people will buy because this is a crazy concept. People will love this concept. So these assumptions will make. But in the ground reality, this is not true. And research for local markets. So one more mistake what usually we all do is, we only think when we are building something new, we all think, oh, okay, I want this kind of material. For example, so I was thinking when I was making a product, I was thinking, I have to use a carbon fiber. So I hope everyone knows about the carbon fiber material. So I was thinking, okay, I have to use a carbon fiber material. I can reduce the weight. I can increase the strength of the material. So all these things I had an assumption. But on the ground reality, it was totally different. Getting a carbon fiber material, getting a fabricator for that, getting, the whole product done was not at all easy. And it is not even viable for doing that. So these things, we have to keep in mind. And the next main thing is marketing. Okay. So we have a crazy concept. Now you have solved all these things. You have done a proper planning. You have done a proper research planning, everything you have done. So next thing is, all these things should be done before you start a business, before pitch in as a startup. After this planning research, and when you're really confident on that, go to the marketing part. Now the marketing includes, first thing is, building a website, building a domain, getting a domain name, uh, creating a business email ID. So these things are there because now it's anyway all digital. So website, purchasing a domain name, uh, hosting it. So all these things should be a part of a costing itself. And these things are not like, simple. Website, we think, okay, we can create a website, but website has to be very catchy. So you can't, if you are very creative, yes, you can do it. We all think, okay, we have anyway ready-made platforms like Wix, Squarespace, where we can, create a website and host it and all. But actually website should be very catchy that, only professionals can tell us. So even when we were designing and when we were doing it, we thought, okay, we'll only make our own website. Why to spend 10K or 15K, someone to give someone and they start making a website? We were thinking on that. Then we got to know that how the professionals make websites. So when actually we spoke to a person, we spoke to the person and who creates a website, he gave us more clarity. What actually people search? Where does the first arrow goes? How is the search engine? So there's something called as SEO. Okay, search engine optimization. What kind of words you have to use it? So when you're writing a blog or something, or when you're writing an article in the website, or you're giving a description, how the description should be there. It should help your search engine optimization. So there's a lot of things we usually ignore. We only think in a product perspective. We don't think the surrounding of it. How can we bring up that product? then creating a business email ID, and these are there, like, creating a social media account, um, creating an Instagram account, all these things are there. And yeah, Instagram, website, these are the, I personally feel Instagram, Facebook, and website are the best way for marketing right now, because a lot of people, we itself, we spend a lot of time in these social media platforms, and we have to, we can utilize them in a more efficient way. But we should always approach a professional who is already into it, so they can guide us better. So when you take an Instagram also, you can't blindly put any random post. There should be a color theme in it. When you're building a website, there should be a color theme in it. Those kind of things will attract us. When you take a professional websites, for example, you can take an Apple website itself. It's too plain, very aesthetic, pleasing, simple. But when you take some local website, you can see how they are. So these things, these minute things which we ignore matters a lot. So these kind of things will actually create a brand value for the company. So this and all, you should have a better plan before starting it. Next thing is creating an email signature. So right now, okay, you are not into a yes, in a college days, but when you come to a professional, or when you come to any industry, when you're sending a mail to someone, we always have a signature below it. Is there any disturbance? Hello?
No, sir, you can continue.
Okay. So yeah, we all have a something called a signature below it. So signature will include our name, from where are we, what is our position, what is our profession, address. So these kind of things will be included. This All these things you have to pre-plan it before you make all the accounts. And then one more thing is you have to search. So before starting you have to search where you can market the product. So do you have any local markets for that? Can you market in a events? Can you market in a shop? How can you market that? Is anyone willing to market for you? So before investing, or before funding your this thing, you have to go through all these things, that how can you market these things. Then comes the main picture, is a legality issues, business legalities. You have to choose a legal structure. So in making a company, we have number of legal structures like private limited, LLPs, partnership firm, or a proprietary firm. So what is it you want to do? That, and after that legality, it's not single. So it is a big process, to be frank. We always think, okay, it's all easy, you can apply it online, that this, but it has its own struggles getting those licenses, or getting a PAN card, TAN, all these things are there. You have to choose before starting all these things. Now coming to the products and services, you have to have a designated workplace, where actually, do you have a workplace, or you want to rent a shed, or you can put it on. I'll tell you why I'm telling all these things. So these are the things I missed out when I was making a plan. So we always we always say, okay, fine, I have a shed, I can rent it out, and these things. But always find an alternative where you can get it for free. So is there any place that can you get it for free, at least for few months of time? And where you can get your supplies, how many days they'll take to deliver supplies for you, and who is the cheapest one. And you have to create a sample product first. So before starting up picking up a name, picking up the private limited, or doing all the legality issues, before doing all these things, first thing what you do is you have to make a sample product. You have to go through it, you have to see, okay, can you do it or not? How is this, and what is the costing of it? We all make a normal costing on a sheet, and all we make a costing, but actual costing can be different. Because when you're making a product, we ignore a lot of small things. So only when we do it manually, we get to know, okay, what is the actual cost, what is happening to us. After that, branding, finances, all those things are there. We'll come back to that later. Okay, so can you move to the next slide? Now coming to the main part, that what is my mistakes. So I was telling you all these things, how you should start, how you should plan all these things, and I was telling you right now. But I'll tell you what my mistakes were. So I would like to highlight it as my mistakes only. First thing was, I started big. So I preached just now. This is all by my experience. I'm telling you, how you should have done it. But for me, what mistake I did was, I started big. So what I started big was, I took off, before making a model or before having all these things, I discussed with one of my partner who was willing to, partner with me for a half of 50-50% of this. We were equal share partners. I pitched him my idea and he encouraged me, fine, we'll do it. We rented off a space. Immediately we rented off a space. And the rent was 12,000. That time we didn't think. We thought, okay, we made a kind of a business model. We thought, okay, per month we can have 20 number of sales. Next month we can have 40 numbers of sales. Okay, we can pay our rents, pay our salaries, all these things. We thought it. So that's why we rented off a 12k 12k place. Its rent was 12k. Advance was 80,000. And after that, we immediately within 2 weeks, we thought, okay, that's kind of a plain. And we all have that startup fantasy. When we see a lot of startups and all, when you see a lot of startups and all, they're kind of cool place, cool looking, all these things are there. So even I wanted the same thing to happen. So I invested on a matting. I did the cool paintings, invested on furnitures. Before we started the product, before we even approached few customers, this is the thing we did, that we invested in everything. Next one, lot of them were unnecessary. So this is what I felt later, or this is what I feel now, that most of my spendings I could have saved it. Paint was not necessary, furniture was not necessary. I mean, the basic furniture, not apart from the basic furniture. So I had like cupboards, all these things were there, different kind of racks, office chairs. So I felt this was not necessary right now. Third big mistake I made was I borrowed loan in a confidence. So I borrowed a personal loan thinking that, okay, if I invest right now, so tomorrow I can make it. What I should have done, or what I'm telling you, everyone. So it's all easy to listen, and whenever we listening, we feel, okay, yeah, this is true. But when we dive into it, no, we forget all these things. We initially only we'll start investing more. Uh, that's what I took a loan and I invested that loan over there. So this is a mistake I did. I should have started with my savings. I should have done a small model. I should have done in a smaller fashion, then scaled it up. So there is a saying in a startup, basically, we should never spend or we should never borrow extra loan. You should have a small one, a small amount of savings you have to put in making a product. Then you have to make the product to pay you. So you don't need the product to pay a profits for you right now, at least for a year. At least it should pay your expenses. That's how the startup should be there, and that's how startup can grow. Next biggest mistake I did was hiring people too soon. So I could have done a lot of things. So as I told you, I'm already into a robotics field. I'm already passionate about electronics and these things. I thought I didn't have a time and I wanted someone else over there. So I had two people. So one who was working on electronics IoT, and one more was taking care of the plans, taking care of the designs and all these things, taking care of the customers even when we didn't had a customer. These things were there. Next, there's something called as blind order beliefs. So I was telling you that we'll get these many orders, that many orders. And whenever we making something new, right? When we pitch to someone that, I have this crazy idea that this product works like this. So what usually people tell is, oh, this is really nice. I would like to buy it when it is done. So we believe that. We believe, start believing, okay, I have this customer, I have this customer, I have this customer. This is the biggest mistake we all do in our lives, or this when we all do when we do a startup. We should have a least expectation. We should never believe that there are people who's ready to buy the things before it is ready. Once it is ready, they back out. And trusting each and every person. So startups, you can hear a lot of stories about how startups failed, but people over there, or failed people over there, are actually not failures. They have taken some of the other things in their life. So trusting each and every person in a startup is a biggest risk thing, because see, someone trusted me on my idea. I trusted them, thinking that he can do a marketing, he can get the finance done. So all these things and all that. So all these trusts were there, but which didn't happen. So usually what happens is whenever we start something and we get some blind hopes from people. They'll be like, hey, I'm there for you, I'll help you whatever you want. But actually when it comes to the reality that you actually require some help from them, they back out. So you should be ready. You should be always ready that even though they're not there, you can do it by yourself. And one more thing is hiring freshers with zero experience. So what was in my mind is I can't hire an experienced one because they'll ask for a higher pay. So it's better to hire a fresher. So he'll be expecting a least pay and I can get work done from him. So fresher is just a pass out. He doesn't even know what is, how the industry is or what industrial components are there. So whatever, I'm okay. I know it's a business management school, but I am from a engineering background. So I would like to relate the whole thing to that kind of perspective. Okay. So whenever we hire a fresher, whatever we learn in our subjects, not necessarily we do implement the same thing. It's totally, or mostly it's always, the opposite, or it's totally different. We have to learn over here, then implement over here. So this is what happened to me. So when I was building a product of my own, it was an automation module. So I hired a fresher and I thought, okay, he could do it. But no, that was not a reality. So I thought, okay, YouTube videos are there that can help me. That was not a reality. So even he was struggling, I was struggling in getting the things done. So it took more than 3 to 4 months of time to get a simple product done because both of us were inexperienced on that particular thing. And next thing, money management. So whatever cash I had, so I had some savings in mutual funds, crypto, and the loan, all these things. I spent the whole thing directly, full. Whatever looked fantasy, I was like, okay, fine, we'll do it. So this is what happens when you have a money. So even in our normal lives also, for example, you have 1,000 rupees cash with you right now, you spend, but imagine you don't have it, you just have 20 rupees. You manage the whole thing in 20 rupees. So when you have 1,000, you only think that, at a 1,000 rupees point of view. When you have 20, you think in a 20 rupees point of view. So this is something you have to be really careful in a startup. And most of the startup fail for this reason. They don't have the money management. Once they get a fund, they start spending the whole fund. And the next thing is, sometimes I feel that I've started too early on this product, that I should have taken my own time. I should have spent some more time in researching all these things, building up by myself. And these are the things I feel. But a lot of people do that. Once they get an idea, they totally jump into manufacturing that, or jump into making a company and start all these things. Sometimes you always think, should I do it now or not? So sometimes I feel that's starting too early. If I had done a bit late, probably I could have done it much better. Okay, so can you slide to the next one? Okay, so these were few things. Then what I did the mistakes. And why do most of the startups fail or struggle is lack of market demand. Okay, you make a product, you always think, whenever you think of something new or you make a product, you always think there's a market demand because you like it. It is not necessary that people will like it. I'll take my own example of my startup. So when I was growing, I thought, okay, we are growing hydroponic. I'll just explain about the product what I am doing right now. It's a hydroponic system where we grow plants without using soil. It's all grown by the water, and we add nutrients to it. And we were growing lettuces in that. Lettuce is kind of exotic, and it's a highly rewarding kind of a cash crop. Lettuces are sold for a high price. Okay, so you're thinking this in mind, and we thought, okay, we can grow lettuce, we can make a good profit out of it, all these things. But when I say lettuce, a lot of people don't know what to do with it. They be like, okay, in burgers they have seen, that's all. But do you think people will eat burger each and every day? How can they use it on a regular basis? They don't use it. So we always assume that is what is right for us instead of thinking what is right on the market side. Does the market require this or not? Right now, presently where I am in, the market doesn't require lettuce, but I thought it's a crazy thing that I have to do it. Next is insufficient fund. Okay, so what happens is in a startup, we all think, okay, we all start with a small amount, true, but we should always have a huge backup of a huge amount. We think, okay, 1 lakh I have right now and I can start something. But once the startup doesn't work, for example, if you're not able to achieve your goals, it happens. Whatever you think is not probably you can achieve that. Sometimes it might fail. What we do is the whole 1 lakh we'll spend in a few years of few months of time. So we think, okay, 1 lakh I have right now, and it's more than sufficient for 6 months of time. And still in 6 months of time, you're not able to build a product. You have run out of cash. What you do is you close your startup. So always you should have a small backup. Either you have to have an investor, or you should have your own fund, or you should be ready to risk it. So a lot of people, they don't do it. They have a small amount, they feel okay, this is more than sufficient and my startup will pay me back. This is what people do, and this is why people fail. Next thing is a wrong team. Okay, so I'll tell you in my thing also what happened was, initially when I started with one of my friend who told me, who was supporting me, and he's like, I'll help you with the finance or I'll help you with the marketing. So he's good at marketing. He was into marketing field actually. He told me all those things, and I promised him, okay, I'll get the product done. So usually what happens, sometimes we can't meet the deadlines. We have to accept it. We always say we have to stick with the deadlines. You have to, that is true. It has to be there. But in R&D, research and development field, sticking to a deadline is kind of a it's not kind of a possible all the time when we are not experienced in that kind of field. So building an automation module, it we promised them a particular time, but it didn't happen. So what happened was our marketing was getting delayed. Because of marketing getting delayed, we only had expenses and we didn't had any sales. He totally lost interest. Because I am from a engineering background, I am working in an R&D company, so I know the failures. I know how to be on a patient on that kind of thing. But he was from a particular industry where they fix always to a deadline and they achieve that, and they make sales on the deadlines. So he was totally impatient. So the first thing I did was getting with the wrong person. So he totally lost interest, or he totally lost hopes that this startup can rise. He lost that. Next was the team I had hired. As I told you, it was a freshers. So I had hired two freshers, and they didn't knew anything about the start. They didn't knew anything about the startup culture. They didn't knew anything about the industrial components. So I expected them to do something very big. So this was something, a big mistake I did, and this is what happens usually. So in a startup, it's not necessary. The first team is always the best team. I hope you know about Zerodha. Zerodha is a trading online trading platform where you can do all these things. I guess you know about Zerodha. That team. So he started with a small team, and initially when it kind of grew in the mid level, he had 50 numbers of employee, and those 50 are still there in the team. Okay, this is kind of an exception case that it doesn't happen everywhere. So when you take any startup, no, usually the first team, or the core team, what you call, finding that core team is the most difficult. Leave of the product. We always think startup is only related to the product. Startup is not related to the product. Startup is a kind of a culture that we have to build. Startup is a kind of a family that we are in. So there's a lot of things in a startup. The team making is the biggest thing in a startup, because a startup is a kind of a floating kind of a floating plane. It can crash anytime, it can rise anytime. So a team, the whole team should be ready to face anything. Next is a strong competition. When we think, for example, let's take an Ather. Ather is a electric company. So when they started on electric scooters, Ather was booming, and Ather was the best at that time, that point of time. But when you see now, Ather doesn't stand anywhere. There are a huge, big competitions around them. So a startup should be ready to face those competitions and rise above them. When you take Tesla, when Tesla started, it was the best. But now each and every company is making electric car. And India itself, Tata is making electric car and Hyundai is making electric car. So a lot of people find, okay, instead of going for Tesla, I can go for this. And you have seen that new XUV 700. It has got ADAS system. That is, it has a kind of automatic steering. So all these improvements are happening, and people, instead of paying a huge amount for Tesla, they go for XUV 700 itself, when it can do a small amount of automatic steering system. And next is the pricing and cost. What initially only I mentioned you. Okay, when I'll just give my own example. So when I was building my own product, so I was making a costing, and I thought, okay, this is a unique product, people will buy. So my first model started 10,000 rupees. I thought, okay, oh, this is a kind of a crazy pricing, and my competitor was selling the same model for around 23,000. So it's kind of a half price I'm doing. I can do it easily. But when we approach customers, they're not even ready to pay that much. So cost pricing and the cost is very important. How much do you want to price it? Where you're standing actually, in which market you are. Does the market have a demand for that? So in which city you are, or which place you are, where you're going to sell it. So all these things you have to keep in mind. who are your potential customers, and whom are you going to target them. So these things you have to keep in mind. Then only you have to do the pricing of it. And this is why most of the startup fail. They think a particular price they maintain for that. And okay, when I give an example of Aether itself, Aether is priced for 1.45 lakhs around. There is a lot of other scooters, and Ola is pricing the same, almost a better specs for 1 lakh rupees. Now you see a clear indication. Ones who are on the topper is going to fall down easily, because Ola is doing a much better scooter at a lesser price. So why will I buy Aether when I can buy a Ola scooters? So this is what people think. People are not really bothered. Okay, what is something special in Aether? They always think, okay, what they only see the top features and they'll be like, okay, what I can get at the least price, and unrealistic expectations. So a startup should always have a zero expectation. They should have a small goal. They should have a mission, vision. All these things should be there. But the expectation, we always have a too high expectation whenever we make a product. So this is something we should avoid, or this is something that startup should know, or the team, not only the founders, the whole team should be aware. Okay, in case if doesn't happen, I'm still going to accept the market. This thing should be there. Next is the partners decision making. So here what happens is, whenever you do something, we usually do in a team, and it's always best. I totally prefer, whenever I'm starting something, I don't start by myself. I always, want at least one person, one extra person, so that your workload is shared, and there's someone to tell you that, okay, this is not right what you're doing. So this will be there. But over my case, what happened was, there's no partner's decision making. Whatever I told, he agreed. So whatever I was telling, okay, this is like this, we'll do like this, we'll do, he agreed. Then later on, it didn't work, he gave up. So you're choosing a right partner. His decision making matters a lot. And the biggest challenge is winning the trust of a customers. How do you get the customers trust on you? So when we sold our first five products, we didn't had, we never, we thought, okay, customers will be happy or they'll call us back. They never called us back. They never said, this product is good, that, this and all, because we never took the service to that better level. We never called them, we never asked them how is it. We just gave the product and we thought, okay, they'll call us. So this is the biggest thing we did. So then we realized, and after that sales, what we're doing is, we're giving a better service to them. We're calling them, frequently. So this is something, service. Basically, how do you win a trust of customer is only by the service you provide, the way you talk. It's only by delivering a product, the customer is not happy. The delivery service is, what a lot of people think. And as this happens in automobile industry, this is the best example. So why Skoda and all is not doing that great in the market? It's Skoda have a luxury cars, but still Maruti Suzuki, these are the companies which is doing really best. Tata's and Maruti Suzuki is doing the best because the service is much better. When you take a Skoda and when you take a Maruti Suzuki service, the service cost and all those things are much lower. So this is what people see. And neglecting the marketing and sales. Okay, this is also something very important. Why do a lot of startups fail is that we neglect how to market. We think, okay, we can convince a customer by our talks. We can convince a customer by showing a product. No, it doesn't happen at all. So why does a lot of companies spend a huge amount of money on marketing? Why do they want SRK Salman Khan to advertise a Coca-Cola when we like the product? Marketing is very important. We neglect. We only think, okay, social media marketing, Instagram is more than sufficient. It's only sufficient to a certain level. But when you want to reach a huge customer, or you want to reach on a larger scale, your marketing has to be right. There is a ratio. They say that, for example, you're making a 1 rupee product, for example, 1 rupee chocolate. You have to spend minimum 300 rupees on the marketing of it. So it's a 1:300 ratio, which we all don't consider into when we are creating a startup. When we're creating a startup, we don't take this value. So basically, when I'm doing a product of 1,001 rupee, I have to put a minimum of 300 rupees on the marketing of it. 1 second. So minimum 300 rupees of the marketing on it. Okay. So this is what we all neglect into. Next thing, sales of it. Now imagine you've done a crazy marketing, you have got a huge number of people who want to buy all those things, but are you ready to give that, deliver it? You fail in the sales. So once you fail in the sales, what happens is customer lose trust on you, they back out. So this is what happened to Tesla. Tesla did a crazy marketing, or the product was really fantastic, and people loved it. Tesla cars, but they're not able to deliver the sales of it. So they promise the customers will be delivering by next year, 2020, 2021, 2022, but it is not happening. So a lot of people are not getting the Tesla cars. So what happens? For example, if I promise you that I'll be delivering the product right tomorrow, and I don't do it, what happens? You lose the trust on the product, or there is some other competitor who comes into and grabs the market share. So this is what happens. So when you're spending a huge amount on marketing, you should be ready that how can I, for example, if I get a big customer base, how can I deliver them? So this is also something that you have to keep in mind, and we neglect all these things. So that's what I'm telling you. Whenever we think of a startup, we only think of a particular product sale or this, but we don't think the overall scenario. And this is what happened to us also. Initially we were waiting, waiting for the market. I mean, like, we were thinking, okay, someone should buy our product. Okay, we pitched to a lot of people. Okay, the conversation went on all these things. Now when we got a continuous order of around 8 numbers in a week, we were not able to deliver that because we didn't had any machineries for that. We were not ready. We didn't had a particular time. We had to deliver 8 products in a single week, which we failed. To be frank, we failed. What we did is only marketing with it. We approached them, we convinced them, some of we convinced, but we never thought how can we make it. If we get this many orders, how can we make it? So this is why one of the, so when we don't deliver it, no, we fail. And this is what happened. So I started my startup, this one, in the month of Feb. So Feb second half month and all, we took on the research, all those things we did. Next it is March. So March is when we started. Slowly we started building a product, all these things we did. We did a marketing of it. The next was a lockdown. So everything was shut down and a lot of people wanted the product. Still, we're not able to, okay, everyone understood, okay, there's a lockdown on these things. What we did in the lockdown is we thought, okay, fine, this is the right time for us to market. So anyway, there's a lockdown and we don't have any much work to do it. We can't even open our factory. So what we'll do is we'll only market. We did a marketing. We did, in Telangana, we sold it to Telangana also. There's a lot of places. Gujarat I sold, and to Bihar I was supposed to sell, and in Mysore we sold. So all these places we did. So then what we did is we uh, we approached a lot of them. We explained them the concepts. We were always in the meeting explaining them, okay, this is how the product is, this is what you can get benefit of. Once we got the whole thing, we were not able to deliver it. So even now I was not able to deliver to Delhi and all. So I was getting a message from them, sir, when are you going to deliver it? And when I failed, no, 2 or 3 times they'll ask you. Once you are not able to deliver on the time you gave, you lose a customer. So once you lose a customer, the negative talks go on. The word of mouth, they say, it happens the both negative, the positive way and the negative way. So if the customer is happy, he tells everyone and people start buying. If customer is not satisfied, a one small negative talk about your company, it just spreads like a air. It directly goes to each and everyone, and they start quitting back. And lack of actual planning. So we do a lot of planning. So initially, before starting all these things, we did a plan. Okay, how a startup should be, that this and all we did. But once you start the startup, no, it's not necessary to go according to your plan. You should be always flexible how to adjust yourself to that kind of a plan. So this one we failed. So sometimes even when we started the product, I'll tell you about our company itself. When we started, we always concentrated on selling the domestic kits. Okay, they're hydroponic. I'll show you in the next coming slides. I'll show you what is our exact product. So when we thought, okay, domestic, and we thought, okay, everyone will buy all these things, and we never considered we can go commercial. We can do something on a larger scale. We never did that. Okay, this is what. Then we are totally flexible, and our business model also was totally different. We only thought that we'll only do sales of the product. But right now, we're totally a kind of a small drift. We have taken a small drift. We are working on a supply chain of a produce. We're not concentrating on the selling a product. So selling a product has become a secondary business for us now. Which is supposed to be primary, it has become a secondary business, and making a supply chain for the produce has become a primary goal for us. So we should be ready to slightly drift from the planning, and to have an actual planning. So you should never think, okay, whatever I'm doing is always right. The market will accept, customer will accept. In the process, you learn a lot. Starting a startup is easy. Being in a startup, continuing a startup is what matters a lot. And it is not always the way you plan a startup will grow. You should always be ready that in case if this doesn't happen, or on the process you start learning that whatever I was thinking is actually wrong. This is what the market wants. So you should be ready to take up that plan and start implementing on that, start up working on that. So, and you should not totally divert your plan, but it should be on a similar phase or a slight parallel shift. What we call as a parallel shift should be there, not the whole opposite direction. This. So can you move to the next slide now? Okay. So all these things now, it's easy to hear, or it's easy to preach and all, but being over there and making all this work is really what it takes. Now I'd like to tell there's three ways to start a startup. So one way, so we all know how to start a startup actually, the legality process, all these things. But here I have made something of my own. This is, so what I feel is there's actually three ways to start a startup. Only I'm talking about a startup, not a business. So keep in mind, a rich kid startup, economic kid startup, and a poor kid startup. So this is a three-way you can start a startup. Okay. So what is a? I'll come to the first one. What is a rich kid startup? So rich kid startup is a person who has already a good financial background and he's not worried about his money, and he's only worried. He's only driven into his passion, and he wants the product to be long lasting. So he wants to start a startup. So this is a rich kid startup. So
Yes. I- okay. Hmm. Sir,
yeah, sir, am I audible?
sir, we can see your video, which is enabled for back camera, sir.
Uh,
Now it's okay, sir. Now
okay.
it's okay.
Can you see me right now?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
fine, fine. Okay. Now it's clear, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Okay, fine. Okay. Now I was talking about the three ways to start a startup. So a rich kid startup, economic kid startup, and a poor kid startup. So what is this rich kid startup is? A person who has already a financial background, who has, he's not worried about his money. He's ready to spend 1 crore or 2 crore, whatever it is. His parents are wealthy enough. So how a rich kid should start? When you have a money and when you have a potential idea, you have to start a big. You have to start always big, because when you start small, it takes a lot of time to reach the market. But when you have a financial background and when you're able to spend so much, so what you do is you have to invest on a team. You have to have a proper plan. Before that, you have to have a proper plan. Then you have to invest on a team, get a big team, and spend on the marketing and get the product launched as soon as possible. For example, let it be an I'm taking on a brief understanding. Let it be a car. Okay, so I have something, a unique idea that I'm making a kind of a crazy concept car. So what in case if I have a very good money that I can sustain for, or even I don't mind losing that money. So how I'm supposed to start is I have to invest a lot. I have to invest in a team making, because I have to get the thing as soon as possible, especially in technology. Every day the technology which was yesterday is actually very old today. So technology, it's growing in a very rapid rate. So what happens over here is, the even though you had all the resources, you didn't want to risk it. So what you did was you got the product very late to the market, and there's already some other buyer, or there's already a potential customer, or there's already potential competitor over there who is giving a competition to you. But if you were the first in the market, you're doing much better. So a rich kid, you should know where do you stand over here. Are you a rich kid? Are you into that kind of startup? You want to start that kind of startup, or a next? I'll tell you on that. Next is the economic kit startup. So what is this economic kit startup is? You have a kind of a small amount or small savings, and you have a small savings and you have a potential idea. So what you should do is you should invest on a particular, probably let it be a marketing, let it be on a good product, or let it be on a good number of components. You have to invest on these things. What you have to avoid in an economic kit startup is you have to avoid investing on unnecessary things like a furniture. So I would like to fall myself in an economic kit startup. So what I did was, what I was supposed to do is, what a small amount of money I had, I was supposed to spend only on development and marketing of it, not on the extra luxury. Okay, so this is what mistake we made. So you should know what is it. Next is a poor kid startup. So poor kid startup is not actually a poor kid startup. So it basically, you have a good idea, but you don't have any funding. You don't have any money with you. See, no one is, there's very few people who can trust your idea and who's ready to fund for you. But a lot of people will fund only if they see something running. So we call it as a proof of concept, POC. So whenever we make some new model, we make it as we call it as a POC model. POC model is not need to be the exact model what we sell in the market. It's just to show someone, how the concept works. A poor kid startup, what he has to do is, he should not spend on anything. He has to only spend on the concept. That is, you don't need to get industrial grade materials also. Whatever you can do. For example, you want to design a new bike. So what you do is take a thermocol, start showing on that. This is how my aesthetics of the bike looks like. Or you're building something, a house or something, you're into architecture. What you do is, you don't need to, for example, you don't have a laptop, or what you do is, you can have a cardboard structure and show someone, okay, this is how it will come. This is how a poor kid startup should do. Then once you show the concept to people and they like it, then they invest on it. Then you have to see how do you want to spend your money in. So there's a best three ways to start a startup. If you have good amount of money, if you have good amount of resources, start big, because you need to reach the market as soon as possible. If you have a limited amount of money, a limited amount of resources, go in at that single pace itself. Do not spend on unnecessary things. Always have a backout, because economic kid, if he loses his savings, he's again to the poor section. Okay, so you should know that how you're spending your money. Next is a poor kid. So if you are in that stage, if something is stopping you from doing it, always think there's always alternative. You should, a lot of people, this I have seen a lot of people, I've come across a lot of people, they say, I have an idea but I don't have money to show or money to build it. So I'm looking for a funding, I'm looking for investors who is ready to invest on my startup and all. You show your proof, you show them, then people will come and invest on you. When you don't have anything, how can a person come in? So you should know which category you fall into. So here also, what happened, I'll give you my own example itself again. when we started, we were looking for investors and all. Okay, we started with small amount. Then with that kind of a concept, we were looking, for a big investment, and we are looking for big investors. And we thought, okay, what we'll do is we'll wait for some time. So this is something we did. I feel, this is something we did very good. So initially, only we were about to get a funding, and we thought, okay, we'll not do it right now. We'll not take the fundings right now, because I personally saw good potential. My partner wanted to take up investment, but I was resisting to it, and I told him I personally see a good potential in the concept what we doing it. So let's not go for it now. And also, yeah, you should keep in mind when you say when you're getting a money, initially this will happen when you're starting a startup and you're able to get some investment. We feel more greedy enough and we start taking it. Okay, we never see, okay, what is the future of it. That's when again most of the startups fail. See, now I'm making some new concept, I don't have any money. Okay, I'm in a poor kid startup actually. I don't have any money, I just showed to someone and that person was ready to invest. So he's ready to invest some 10 lakhs. What I did was, I told him, so when he's investing, he told me, because I'm investing 10 lakhs, I'll take out 80% share of the company, and he'll give me 20% share, because I just have an idea. That initially, that point of time, 10 lakhs is a big amount. So what I'll be like, I'll tell yes, because I wanted money to build up my concept. So I'll be like, yes. So I give him 80% and I take up 20% for that amount of that time. That is not a big deal. I just wanted money to build my concept, and it did that. But once it clicks up, and once it goes to the market and all, that time it matters a lot, because he'll be earning a lot in that, and you'll be earning a very small chunk of money. Your hard work, your this thing, our investor is taking up. So you should be very wise enough to know when to take up an investment, when to take up a funding. If you can do it by your own, start doing it. But also remember that never give up. For example, yeah, never give up if a startup fails. There's always second option. You can always restart it, rebuild it. So failure is a lesson in a life, that there's an obstruction in the front, you have to take a reroute of it. It is not a dead end, dead stop. Okay. So here, this is something you take care, that how to take an investment. After that, when we rejected that, so my partner was a bit he was not happy with it. He was like, we could have got a money and you didn't do it, and see, now we are not able to succeed in the product. We are losing our money. That's what he said, and he quit. Later on, I didn't take up the defeat, or I didn't feel that, okay, now I know how to quit. I had zero, almost a zero cash. I had spent each and everything, but I had to still sustain. So I didn't give up on my plan. I still worked on it. And luckily, I built a new team. So that is what a present team I'm working with. And there's all they say, normally they say the destiny. It's how it works. So it's meant to be with them, I guess. So I got a better team. I got a better people. I got a better team. And now we are getting a good amount of investment for a lesser amount of share. So initially, what shares we have spoken was 70-30, because they're investing a good amount of money for just for 70% of share, and we didn't have anything, so we had to accept 30% of share. Now, almost for the double of the investment, uh, the investor is taking only 40% share, and he's giving me 60% share. So that's what you should always have a faith in your company or faith in the concept. You should never accept the failure easily. You should always try hard, because only when you try hard, there's always a second door which we don't know. We always only think in only one single path. You should always do that. So can you move on to the next slide? Okay. So startup journey, for me was not that easy. So it was a lot of times I did feel that, did I want this? I had a good amount of money in uh, my mutual funds savings, and I was in trading. I was doing a cryptocurrency, so Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all. So I felt that I was making a good amount of money there. Why did I invest in this and make a loss? But on the other hand, I always had a mindset that no, my company will grow someday. It has a potential. It will reach customers. It's only that we should work better. So somewhere is we are missing, we are lacking on something that we don't know, or we are not working hard on one particular thing. So we worked on that, and it's coming out good now. But still, we are still in a learning phase. So whatever I've told now, is according to my experience and how we faced it. So what are all troubles we faced? Probably in having a team or in having finances. So whatever I've told you, how we will fail. So these are things I did study before starting doing a startup. I knew, okay, you should not spend this way. I knew you have to have a better team, that this and all there. But thing is, whenever you start, you forget all these things. It becomes totally a fantasy word for you. Again, coming back to the reality is a challenge, and you have to accept, you have to do it. Then only you can succeed in it. So I wish, people who are listening to this and they want to want to, who want to contribute to society by giving us some new product to us, and who is some planning to have something big, big anything. So always think twice before starting it. Before having a team, think twice and never start it big. In case if you don't have a money, so start it small and make sure that startup pays for your expenses. So this is how you should plan it. Only this works only when you don't have you have a limited source. If you have money, enjoy. But if you don't have money, make sure you're spending your money wisely. Okay. I'll just brief you about Hayata. That is my stuff. So till now, I was just talking about the struggles we did, the how the kind of failures were happening. See, here I'm not talking about the uh, the the positives, because positives you have always seen on a TV or you have always read about them. So whatever you read about the article about any startup booming up, you only see the positives of it. You never we never hear about the startups which has failed, or we never even bother to read about how the startups failed and all. So this only only I didn't want to talk about the the growth of us. I didn't want to see the downfall of us. So how we were there, how we struggled. So what were there, on the bottom line. So only that I want to portray, because no one does this. They only talk about the startup being in a higher side. And this is the main thing why we all fall into a startup category, why we feel more fantasy towards it. We only see, okay, oh, the startup is making huge amount of money and even I have to start a startup. So don't do that. If you have a passion towards it, do it. If you don't have a passion towards it, never do. A startup is not a money making. Startup is only money making when you have a passion in it. If you're only thinking, okay, startup, because of doing a startup I can have money, leave off that concept. Okay, I'll just tell you about Hayata, my company. So here we deal with hydroponic kits. In the next image, you can see that hydroponic kits, and especially domestic and commercial models. And we do our training activities also. So what we do is in hydroponics, so when we say hydroponic, a lot of people don't know about hydroponics. So we do our training activities for them, what is this? And we teach them a different business model of ours, what you can do connecting with us. And we do a hydroponic business development. It's not only sales we do. So this is what the whole thing. So why I'm showing you all these things is not a marketing of ours. It is that how we changed our business plan to something new on this, and which is actually working out for us. So this one we didn't have when I started this. This is something we learned throughout the process, and we thought, okay, this is how we have to get adjusted to the market. It's not in the product, it's how the services you give a training program sessions. This is when we get more customers for us. Then we do a hydroponic business development. So selling a kit is not our main goal. After selling a kit, how can a person get benefit out of it? So we do go to a lot of customers and we tell them, okay, if you have a terrace, so this is what we are concentrating is a urban farming. So we want to encroach a lot of terraces and build a hydroponic system or big farms over there. And see, a lot of people build that farms, but after that, we give a guarantee or we give a support for that. How can we sell the produce? We help the customers in selling their produces. We give the model to them, they build it, or they grow in that. So after they have grown, we will tell them, so don't worry that we are there to take back your produce. And we are creating a supply chain now, that we are getting who are the buyers and who are the sellers. Next is Agritech created automation models and IoT devices. So all a startup, will have a kind of a plus point when you have some technology in it. And whatever we are doing, it's kind of a smart solution. We don't want our customers or buyers to spend a lot of time on the product. The product should give them a profit. The product should, run sustainably, and it should work on its own. So how does it works on its own is we are building an automation module that takes care of itself. Let it be, I'll tell you in the next slides, you'll get to know what is it exactly. Then I told you we are trying to convert an urban space to agriculture land. So right now, what problems you're facing in a present scenario is everything is coming from far off places. Probably like, after Tumkur, there's a lot of agriculture land, or from that land, it's coming to Bangalore and we are selling it here. Transportation cost is added, time delay. So whatever we are eating is not at all fresh. But what if you're getting some fresh products by just next building of yours? We are aiming for something to give to our customers within 8 hours of harvest. Within 8 hours of harvest, it should reach the customers. So that is what we are aiming into. And we are building our own supply chain management. So from a product management, we have come to a supply chain management, because we slowly learned what exactly is lacking in. A lot of people can do a product and give it to the customers, but no one is taking care of that supply chain, a producer to a buyer. So we want to build a supply chain on that. And we provide an end-to-end solution. So I told you that we give the model, we take care of the services, and we only take back the produce and we give the customer the profit. So basically he is giving a business to us and we give a business to them, and we take up a lot of turnkey projects also. In the next slide you can actually see the product, what is our product. So can you move on to the next slide? So yeah, this is how a kind of a product looks like. So here we have a system. All this is grown over there with the water, just by using a water and in a small grow cups. So we have grown all these things. And here what happens is a water, a nutrient, and the left side you can see a small bucket where we have put a water and a few nutrients for the required plants. So that pumps in to the plant, it supplies the nutrients and again goes back. On the right side you can see our roots. So we had an assumption that the plants need only soil to grow. It requires sunlight to grow. So actually, it's a false assumption. It requires a soil for a support. So here we're giving we are making a support for it and giving it. And plants can grow indoor. Plants doesn't require sunlight. It actually requires a particular spectrum of light, and the spectrum falls from red and blue. So when you combine the red and blue, it's kind of an ultraviolet light. So that is what spectrum it requires to grow. So when we can do this, you can actually grow in this any apartment. For example, there's a building and it is not utilized. We can actually grow inside that building and supply it to the local markets over there. So can you slide to the next slide? Yeah. So can you move to the next slide? Yeah. So this is the actual photo you can see on the, so one slide previous. On the left hand side, you can see how that natural growth is. It's fully dense in a small. And one more thing is it's space consumption project. So we want to consume a less space. You have for example, you have a land of 30-40 site. For example, imagine you have a 30-40 site. So how much you can grow in traditional method is whatever surface area is available to you. But in this concept, and if you are using a hydroponic concept, you can stack it vertically. So in a small amount of space, you can grow multiple times of it. Right now, we are working on a project which takes 100 square feet area and can grow 700 plants in that. So in 100 square feet area, per square feet, only one plant you can grow traditionally. So basically 100 square feet area, I can grow only 100 plants. But right now, what we're doing is we are growing 700 plants. So 7 times the yield. So it's a space consumption also. So these things are the benefits on this. So this is a product we had. So when I was working on this kind of a thing or product, so it was very fantasy for me. Okay, oh yeah, people will buy this. People like, all these things. But later on, I understood that there's something else people are expecting. It's not only this. How can we give a supply to them? What is the benefit of them, having this product? Why should they actually buy this product on a regular this thing? And also, it's kind of a maintenance free. So can you move to the next slide? Yeah. So we are giving an automation module. So here it doesn't require any soil. And it's a self-sustaining system. So what we are trying to do is, even if you're not there if you're not there to take care of the plant for 1 week or 2 weeks, in your traditional method, for example, you have some 10 pots. If you are out for a station for 10 days, they all die. Okay, but here it doesn't happen. Even if you're not there for a month, it takes care of itself. So that is what our system we're trying to build in. So a customer has only to invest. No, invest his money, not his time in this. Next, you can harvest every day. and it has a kind of a zero maintenance. So you don't need to come and every day take care of it or spend some 20 minutes in maintaining all those things. So we are trying to make a zero maintenance product that a customer, once he buys, he should forget, and only it should give on the benefits to you. And it's also a water saving project. So in hydroponics, no, actually hydroponics can save up to 90% of water in a traditional way, compared to a traditional method. You have a 10 pots and you have to grow some 10 kind of vegetables. So every day you require one bucket of water for all the 10 pots. But here we are using one bucket of water for the whole month. And again, it's recycled. We can just keep on filling on the water. And if there's any water loss, it's a water loss only by the evaporation through the leaf. And there's no water loss over here. So basically 90% of the water you can save in this kind of a method. So I guess I have, I have kind of helped few people. I assume I'm, kind of helped few people, understanding what is startup and how it happened. So I wish all of you that, if you're doing a startup, plan it well, plan all your, before, starting thinking on the positive things, think on more on negatives. If it fails in this way, how can I sustain? If it fails, if it happens this way, if my partner quits, can I still survive? If I have no buyers for 6 months, can I still survive? So think on these negative points first. Once you work on that, no, so that answers are nothing but your positives. And also, one more thing I would like to suggest you is, do not blindly fall into startup. I know a lot of people have seen that, without joining or something, without having a backup, what they do is they blindly jump into startup and start it. So it works fine for a lot. It works fine for few, but it doesn't works fine for a lot of people. So even when I did it, I didn't, jump directly. So I'm still working in a company. I'm getting my salary, and that salary, a small amount of salary, I'm putting into startup. So I still have my backup. Even though if my startup doesn't work tomorrow, I have a financial background that I can still sustain. So people, what they do once they start something new, they leave off their present working job and they totally jump into it. Do not jump until your startup is totally sustainable, until the startup is paying you a double than what your salary is paying, and until you find that there's no other competition for you in next at least 2 to 3 years. Only then you quit your job. Otherwise, do not quit your job. Always have a job, because that's a main source which is getting your money. Then only a small amount of that should go to a startup. After some time, only after a few years, or probably after getting a funding, then only you can grow well, or you can start. Then you can rethink, should you quit your job or not. Until then don't do it. So a lot of people make mistakes on this. So I hope it was an interesting session. So is there any doubts or queries? You can just ask me.
So if you have any doubts, you can even post that in chat box. So don't waste the resource. Sorry, don't waste your time. Utilize the knowledge of resource person to maximum extent.
And also, yeah, I will tell you something that I'm not that experienced or that. So whatever I have got in my life or in my experience, I'm just sharing that, and I feel really happy. So teaching someone makes you happy, but sharing your personal experience to someone and someone can get benefit of that, it's kind of a different level of satisfaction. And Bharat sir and the Shesharipuram Management School, I'm really glad and really happy for giving me this opportunity. Uh, it's really a great pleasure. Thank you all. Yeah.
Sir, just a moment. Students, what they do is they are somewhat hesitant to ask questions.
Okay.
So
Okay.
later
Sure.
on, when we are about to wind up the session, or after we wind up the session, they keep on asking.
Okay. Fine.
So,
Fine.
you just post your questions in chat box if you have any questions. Don't feel bad, or
So,
even you can unmute yourself and ask questions.
so it'd be any silly questions or any question, so which I can answer. I'll surely try to answer that. So in this session, it is supposed to, only talk about the struggles of the startup. So what usually when we start a startup, what are the different struggles we face? So that I spoke about. In case if you have any doubts, how to raise funds, how to legally structure the startup and all, probably you can have a different session on that.
Yes, sir. Definitely, we can have a separate session on that. Once the offline classes start, even we are planning to have the mentoring session for students to raise funds for their startups.
Yes.
A few of them are having really good idea. Actually, in last semester we have conducted a business plan event. They have submitted a really good ideas to us. So what we are planning to do is we are planning to take it to the next level.
Great, yeah.
Yes, any students, if you have any doubts, you can post that in chat. Kindly fill the assessment and feedback form for processing your certificates. Don't miss it.
And one more thing. So whatever ideas you have, don't ever think it's a silly idea. It doesn't work. So always speak to few people, but don't speak to a lot of people. Don't speak to a lot of people. That's also one thing I'd like to suggest is when you have a good idea, speak to few potential people only. Don't let your idea and don't tell to everyone. There's always a possibility that someone can copy you, but it doesn't. You should not keep it to yourself also, because there's something lacking. There might be something lacking that in your ideas, and someone can help you out. So approach those people only. So this also you should keep in mind before pitching your idea and getting into it.
No doubt. Divya ma'am, you can go for vote of thanks as we have come to an end of the session. Divya
Yes,
ma'am
sir.
will be proposing vote of thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I, Divya H, an assistant professor at SIMS on behalf of our MBA department. I extend a really hearty vote of thanks to our speaker, SHASHANK Shekar, sir, for giving us wonderful insights on issues and challenges in startups. Who spared time from his busiest schedule to grace the occasion. And today we had an opportunity to hear your thoughts, sir, and this will surely be going to encourage all of us, sir. Thank you once again for the wonderful session.
And in continuation to that, I also thank
sir, just a second, sir.
Yes,
Bharat, sir.
yes.
I extend our heartfelt thanks to our beloved director, Dr. Vinay, sir, who always encourages us to organize such sessions. Thank you, sir. And I congratulate and thank Professor Bharat M, coordinator of the event, who has worked hard to make this event successful. Thank you once again, sir. And last but not the least, I thank all the participants to be a part of the event. I hopefully think that everyone have learned something from the session, and it was really a grateful session. Thank you once again, everyone. Thank you once again, sir, and my dear students. Thank you all, and have a great weekend. Sir, over to you.
In continuation to that, I have to extend my thanks to Rakshita HV, fourth semester MBA students. Actually, she is the one who made Shekar sir available here. I also thank her. Thank you, Rakshita. Yes. It is end of the session. Participants has to fill the assessment and feedback form for processing certificates. And if you have already filled it, you can exit from now. Thank you. Thank you, Manoj.